So today I wanted to talk about kind of diagnosing or going detailed, let's say, in a specific arc, basically, that I've been seeing pop up a number of times. So arc is just going to be like an overarching story. That's just what we're going to go with it, basically. So it's going to be, overarching story, I think, is going to be okay for this, because basically it's going to span several encounters, but not quite be a full, complete story. Basically, if you want to have like a full story right here from beginning to end, each arc is kind of going to go like this, and it'll be like this, and this, and this, and that, or something like that. Sometimes they'll overlap, sometimes you have different characters, but the idea being that an arc is kind of like one of mini arcs that make up the entire story for a tale. So, I think I told you guys in the last month I've been reading this story, which is okay. It's not great. It's kind of like the Skittles of stories, if I was going to classify it. So it's not really exactly like super well done or anything, but it's enjoyable, and I'm kind of just trying to learn all I can about what makes it enjoyable. Kind of like a pop song that's you get really sick of really quickly, but it's just really addictive, basically. It's kind of the ones they're called. But Tales of Gods and Demons. That's the one this one's called. And honestly, I was seeing a lot of similarities between this one and Naruto as well, in terms of the way they design arcs and stories and stuff like that. Naruto is much better. I think it does a lot better, and I kind of wanted to basically do a breakdown for how Naruto does its arcs and kind of what makes it do it so well. So what I wanted to do is basically I'm just going to kind of get the skeletal blueprints and basically try and blueprints and see then if I can nail those down for a story, so then I could recreate using this arc framework and then see if we can write a story based off of that, which I think we'll be able to do. So let's see what we can come up with. So one thing what we're going to do is basically, I don't think this is going to be called this, but there's an idea that's the strongest man in the village, where it's you fight the strongest man in the village, and then you basically start off here and work your way up to here. And this box represents the strength of the village or something. And then the next one is strongest man in the town. And then you work your way up here. And then strongest man in the city. And you work your way up here. And basically, each of these is an arc. And it's a way to kind of show and display your strength and the way you grow. Hang on, I'm going to go close the window here real quick. It's getting a bit noisy for me. Okay, so the idea is that each of these is an arc, but basically you have a clear sense of progression in the story, and we're moving and getting stronger, but then every time you get stronger and reach the end, instead of just being overpowered here at the strongest man in the village, it resets, basically reframes. So we've got, village right here, and then we got town, and then city, with the idea being that every time it gets bigger and bigger, and there's more people, and there's bigger, badder, bad guys. And this is kind of what most of the shonen fighting ones, honestly, just about all of them kind of follow this element, basically. This is the most common one. So this is what, One Piece follows it, Hunter x Hunter probably, follows it basically to some degree, Naruto, Bleach, and then of course probably the main one of all of them is going to be Dragon Ball Z. DBZ is going to follow this one extremely, very much so. And this is kind of what I would call is kind of like your short form conflict driven ones. So usually these are about fighting, but technically you could do one about cooking, you could do about lawyering, Ace Attorney. So you could do this thing where it kind of follows the same one. Yu-Gi-Oh is another one. And the reason why I just use that one is because it's not exactly an overt combat one. You're not fighting, but you're still conflicting with each other through this card game, in order to compete with each other. So let's break down the arc and see what it is. So basically where it starts off with, make sure I've got a good spot. So, okay. Yeah, so we've got our main character. This is the main character. He's going to be called number 1, or this would be Naruto, Luffy. The main character, Nai Li, is in the Tales of Gods and Demons, so we're just going to use him for right now. for a little bit. Nai slash Naruto. Because this is the one I was kind of thinking of a lot when I was going through this. So Nai. Alright, so we got a main character here. And what we're going to do is we're going to establish, and this E, weird looking E here, is establish. Eventually I'm going to try and come up with a whole language for sword writing, because I've always been envious of musicians and their musical notes, how they can kind of write down whole symphonies just using notes and symbols and stuff. And I really want to figure out if there's a way we can do that with writing. But we're going to establish his, and some of this I'm just making up symbol-wise, so it's not going to make too much consistent sense, but we're going to try and do it. So he's going to establish his strength, or we're going to call this his power, basically his power level. He's going to establish his power level. How is he going to do that? He's going to do that by accomplishing some feat, basically. We're going to call this a feat. So this could be he kills the, let's come up with some examples then. He does something difficult. It has to be something difficult. This is what this feat needs to be. Because basically this is what we're going to use to measure. This is going to be a feat weight. We'll just call this a weight, basically. And the weight, the idea of a weight is it gives you an idea of what power level, basically, you're at. And this could be overt, Dragon Ball Z style, where it's, over 9,000, basically, power level. Another way is just using a bit more nebulous, where instead of 1,000, it's just you have a, small, big, and very big, basically. Small, medium, and large, basically. Creatures or something, and the audience can kind of go, okay, well, you just beat a small guy, or the medium guy beats the small guy, and then a large guy shows up. And immediately we have a power hierarchy. And what we're trying to do is gauge where in this character, where all these characters basically fall for. So he's going to defeat a feat weight to establish what it is. This could be, I was going to come up with examples. It could be the wild boar that's been destroying crops. It could be a bandit. It could be a bandit slash thug, a local lowlife. These are I'm phrasing this in terms of like being like an intro shonen story, but technically we could do this where it could be what would it be? The mafia boss in a new town that you've arrived at. So it could be something where it's not necessarily intro. Again, these are kind of placeholders. You can basically fill in the blank for this. This could be a wild boar. This could be that army antlion from Hunter x Hunter. One of the bosses far into the story. It could be some guy from Greed Island, again, from Hunter x Hunter, where it's kind of going through this. So we can kind of see all the different examples for it. But basically, the important thing is he defeats it and basically establishes his, again, we got this E, that it means establish. We'll write this out here. It establishes his power level by doing this feat. In the same way that, hey, I want you to lift the strongest weight you can lift, that establishes your strength level. I want you to run as fast as you can. That's your speed level. It basically we're trying to do is measure where the main character is, because we need to know where the main character is in order for us to do a contrast. And this is what we're going to do the next thing. So the next thing we've got is we're going to have an antagonist character of some kind. So this is going to be AC, antagonist character. We're just going to put one. Sometimes you put like the names down here or something if you want to differentiate, but either way it works. We're also going to do the E thing. This is going to establish his character, his power level, and basically you can imagine this, okay, they're running through and doing the whole wild boar, doing this whole thing, but then this character shows up and he does a power level. Let's see, power level. We're going to establish his power level, and he's going to do a feat. We're just going to call it, because I don't have anything, a feat 2. The important thing, the numbers don't really important. The thing is, it's obviously in contrast to this feat. It's harder than this feat. So we can see then that it establishes this guy as stronger than this guy. That's kind of the main thing, is we're trying to contrast the differences between these two characters. And this can be done, usually this action that we're trying to break down, this is an antagonist character, so it needs to be somehow negative, basically. So it's a negative action, basically. A negative action in the sense that you're doing this to hurt somebody else, and they're really powerful. So maybe the strongest guy in the village, who the main character, gets help from, loses out to this. And I guess, yeah, I'll go ahead and map all this out, and then I'll try and give you guys a bunch of examples to kind of pull from for this. So, but either way, so this usually needs to be a negative action. It also doesn't necessarily have to be much of a feat. It could just be him showing up with a lot of swagger and arrogance, basically. And the audience gets the idea that this guy is really strong. That could be all it is. Or it could be he comes in and kills the most moral, the mayor, the selfless mayor, or the priest, or the orphan mother. It's something like that where basically they do something negative, do something evil, and it kind of depends on what type of story you want. Do you want it to be a really dark story? Maybe he comes up and kills the main character's mother. He kills someone from down the street. He kills the main character's best friend. You have this aspect of where, the main thing is it just needs to be some sort of negative aspect. So this could be, we'll list some of these kills. Let's see, moral guy. This could be someone good, obviously, someone who's established to be a main character. So that way, when they die, this, of course, whenever you kill an antagonist kills a main character, this provides motivation. This basically, and nothing is energy, cannot be destroyed. It can only be changed, basically. I butchered that, but that's the idea. It's like whenever you kill a character, they basically turn into motivation for your other characters. As crude as that may sound, give me some water. As crude as that may sound, that's kind of the example of the terrible example of this was Magneto. Magneto had his family in that one X-Men movie. I'm trying to remember. It was Days of Future Past, I think. Days of Future Past. I think that's what it was. And he had his family, and it was the wife plus daughter. And basically, they were built up for about 10 minutes, and the only point they were there for was to be killed. And then it turns into motivation, and then Magneto does something because it's part of this over grand arc of that he's trying to do, where Magneto, gets all of this anger and motivation and justification to go rage mode and kill everyone, and then he's a villain. Therefore, he's a villain. Basically, that's kind of what it is. So it kills this guy, harms the main character's, mother. We're talking mother, caretaker character, something like that. Caretaker could be steals something. He can steals food from the orphans, basically. All these are kind of exaggerated examples, and you can almost think of it like on one end is he's a dick. This could be one aspect of it. He's just, he's really annoying. You don't like him. And then over here we have kills orphans. We'll call it this way. Kills orphans. And this is the spectrum that the negative action can exist on. Right? So you got over here, we've got stealing. Stealing is maybe right here, something like that. And then we've got, beat somebody up. Is maybe here or something like that. You've got this spectrum, and it can exist anywhere. Again, it just depends on the story. It doesn't have to be something where it's, hey, we killed 7 orphans, and that's how you know this is a bad guy. You don't need that. You can absolutely do that. You just don't need it. Kind of the way I think of it is it's all relative. You're going to be building off this. So if this is going to be a story early on, again, if this is going to be a story right here, where it's going to be kind of early on here, you don't want it to be super, super bad, because then the next one has to be even more, basically. So if you kill 1 orphan in this episode, man, the next one we're gonna kill like 5 orphans, and then the next one we're probably going to burn down the orphanage, kill every orphan in the city. It's going to have to continually escalate. That's why usually when they start off here, the villains are like stealing food, and you beat them and you move on it, and then somebody's like, okay, actually we're going to come in, we're going to burn your houses down, and that's over here. Okay, that's really bad, so we got to stop those guys. And then, hey, you guys stood up for us long enough, now we're going to try and kill you. There is this escalation aspect that you want to keep in mind, which again, you can do whatever you want. Technically, there's no reason why you can't. There's incentives, but you don't have to. There's reasons why you don't necessarily want to go lower in conflict. So that way, if you have a big bad guy, the next one is not too big of a deal. But it just means that you're not trying to tell the same type of story as these guys are, basically, because these all follow this story arc, basically. Arc structure, we're going to call this. So you could do a story where, hey, the next bad guy after the big bad guy is just mediocre, not that difficult, but just know that it's gonna change the story. So it depends on what you're aiming for. If you're aiming for these, this is how they do it. Again, I don't want to tell anyone how to write the story. I just want you to go, hey, if you're trying to copy this, this is how you can copy this effectively, because that's what we're trying to do. The main thing we're trying to do is this. All right, so we've established basically then the villainy measurement. This one, we'll call this the villainy weight. Basically, villainy weight. And then we're going to do, and of course, eventually is going to come into the main character, is coming to conflict with this character. Now, this sounds like I'm saying these two people have to fight each other. Doesn't necessarily happen. It could be another character or just other character. And this is where, so let's say this character he has got a power level 1, he's got a power level 2, and these guys fight and he loses. You know this guy, it's the math. A plus B equals C, basically. You understand that C is more than A or B by themselves. So basically, if MC, our main character here, sees another character or other character get defeated by the antagonist character, and it's been established that OC is better than MC, then you immediately know that the main character is not strong enough. So that's point blank. Or you could just say, and it doesn't even have to be a fight. It just means maybe this is when they're doing their villainy measurement, they come into conflict. So he comes up and steals food from the orphans, right? And the main character can't do anything. Bam. You have a weight, you have a villainy weight, you have a measurement for how strong. You have established that this antagonist is stronger than your main character. Because again, that's what we're after, is we're basically after conflict. If the main character fights and wins, the conflict is very short. What we're trying to do is we're trying to draw this out. And the way we're doing that is by having the power levels. So you want to have the MC down here, and we'll have the AC down here, and this will be our power level. Let's see. Power level. From here, you have this difference, and this is where the story exists, is in this conflict. That's what we're after. That's what we're going for. So we've established this, the villainous villain does something villainly right from there. So now we've established that the main character is weaker. All right, he's weaker and this guy's stronger. And in order to defeat him, we've got to do, you guessed it, we got to go through a training arc. Actually, get this out here. And so now we're going to go under a training arc. And this is what the Tales of Gods and Demons does just constantly. Like, it's kind of silly how little anything else there is, basically. It's just this, basically. And there's there's a bully element to it, but in terms of like literally all it is just training arcs. It's kind of funny how little variety you have to give in order for a story to be mildly interesting. Because again, we can make fun of stories if they're not good, if they're popular and stuff. People love to make fun of pop songs and say like, oh, they're meaningless, they're vapid, they're not really deep. But if everyone listens to them and everyone enjoys them, they're doing something right. So that something is what we need to learn from. And basically, yeah, I need to actually say also from here, this is in the realm of the village. We're going to call this the village because we're village 1. Again, this is what we're keeping this in mind. From here, this is our village 1, basically, that we're starting off in. So this is all it. But either way, so we've established that the MC is down here and the AC is up here. This is basically, what we're trying to surmount is this power difference, basically, from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a training arc. And everybody loves training arcs because everyone wants to see progress. They want to see how established we are. They want to see this continually moving upward forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a measure weight, basically a weight to see where to quantify where we've begun when we started and where we're going to end up. Because people love to see this idea of progress. This is what we're after. You can call it progress porn if you want to. Basically, what we're looking at is trying to see how far where we're at now and how far we can come. So we're going to do a weight, and we're going to call this a 50-pound weight or something like that. 50-pound weight. That's the strongest the main character do. This could be 50-pound weight. This could be only, you can only do a mile in 5 minutes. 5-minute mile. This could be... you can only cook 200 muffins. This is our cooking arc. 200 muffins in 1 hour. You can only catch 30 squirrels in 10 minutes, basically. Or let me stop making up examples. This is the one where can you walk up a tree? This is the one Naruto does in the Zabuza arc when they're fighting Zabuza. Walk up a tree. This is the one where Naruto and Sasuke are competing with each other, trying to figure out who can use their chakra, suck their chakra, or attach chakra to the bottom of their shoes and walk up a tree. That's the measure weight that we're trying to see. And the measurement is you can't do it. And when they succeed, they can do it. That's the measurement. So the audience, we have a clear goal. That's what it is. It's establishing. We're going to establish a goal. Basically, this is here where I'm at and then where I'm going to. That's where we're going. That's what we're moving towards. And we're establishing this goal so that we can see this idea of progress. We want to see how much progress we're going to be able to make. So, and then usually in the training arc, so it's not just an example of I go to a training place and now I can immediately accomplish it. There needs to be some amount of try, fail. This is your tic-tac, basically, try, fail. And you can do as many or little of these as you want. You're going to run into issues if you do too many, and you're going to run into issues if you do too few. Because if you immediately train once and everything succeeds and everything works out, then the audience is going to have the question of, well, listen, if all you had to do that, why'd you lose in the first place? So you're going to do some amount of try and fail, and this can be times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, etc. basically. Usually for Naruto, it's a lot of failures, basically. You fail a lot. Fail a lot, but then eventually you get to the point where you can succeed, and this is where everyone is super excited about. This is Naruto walking up the tree. This is Naruto learning how to, even a really, really minor one is when Naruto steals the Shadow Clone Jutsu thing. He has this, actually explains why he try and fail. He immediately succeeded was because he had this secret scroll that allows him to do the Shadow Clone Jutsu and create all these Shadow Clones. That's it. So now it actually explains. So you can do it where it's really easy, but you just need to have a good explanation for it. And if you got one, then you're fine. From there, one of them could be you have to go to a special place. This is where Naruto learns how to do the Rasengan, basically. That's another aspect of it where you just kind of have to go, okay, well, he learned how to do it, so that works. But basically, the point is you get to a point where you have achieved the goal. Achieved the goal. This is the end of the training arc, basically. End of the arc with new power, basically. Oops, power level. New power level, okay? And then we get to everyone else's favorite part, and this is the part where we have a rematch, where basically the AC, the antagonist character, is now going to compete against the main character because he's doing something villainously villainous. He's stealing more food from orphans. He steals a bunch of food from the orphans. I'll be back in a month, and then I'm going to steal the rest of your food. And the main character has to show up and stop him and kind of, make sure that happens and keep it from going from there. So that's an option, basically. That's what you got from there. So now we're going to do a rematch, and then of course they're going to compete, and then the main character is going to win. Using the new power level that we've established up here, they're going to win, and now the main character is now the strongest man in the village or something like that. This is kind of the way you see it, where this arc, Naruto follows this with Zabuza. Basically, we have, so we have Naruto, and they're competing to try and figure out where his power level is. They get ambushed by assassins, and Naruto is a scaredy cat. You know, he can't do anything, so he fails in this regard. But we get an idea of where his power level is. He's not very strong. He's not very equipped. That's where it is. Bam. And especially because you have this contrast, you get to contrast it with Sasuke. You kind of get this idea of, okay, well, Sasuke's really good at this, Naruto's not. But basically, this is where we're at. So we get a measurement for it. And then basically, then we get to establish for how powerful these guys are. And it's like, oh, okay, well, they fight against Zabuza, and they manage to free Sasuke, and then Zabuza disappears. So it's like, okay, so we've established that the Zabuza is much more powerful, and they fought. The main characters didn't lose, but they definitely didn't win. And basically, they came really close. They were really trying to just not lose, and that's what it is. And they were trying to kill the bridge builder. They were trying to kill the bridge guy, basically. We got bridge guy. Oops. Yeah. Bridge guy. That's what the target was. They were trying to kill, bridge guy over here. That settles them as an antagonist. We have this conflict. We can see clearly that they're much stronger than Naruto. And then coming over here, we have this training arc where basically they're trying to learn how to walk up a tree, which is kind of signifying that you have certain amount of chakra control, that you have established this. You fail a whole lot, a lot. And then finally, you succeed. And then basically, with the new goal, you have a rematch against the antagonist, and then they fight on the bridge with Zabuza, and Naruto proves himself and basically succeeds, and it's awesome, and everybody loves it. And this is what a lot of Naruto follows, is this rubric, this blueprint for it. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you in the next one.